Okay, this is a little difficult, but I'll zoom back here in a moment. There. I'm reaching with my hand down by the gas pedal, manually moving the motor rod, which actuates both the lower and upper doors. I'm just verifying that there's no obstruction. You can see the foam in there, and you can't quite see it, but on this other side here I've wedged in with the screwdriver, but if I lift that up with a free hand you can see the same motion. So I'm assuming I don't have any obstruction due to a detached or separated foam pad. So I'll show you here what I was grabbing onto as well here, because my plan right now, because I've been into the stash a couple times, is to replace that upper motor, and then down here, this is where the other motor would be up here. This is the wire connector, but I'll try to take more clips later to show it all going back together more or less in reverse order. Yeah, so when I did originally pull out this motor from down below, I just saw this, which was, the recess with a keyed interface, and I thought, oh, well, that's the part, but I could never match it back up until I got down there to Ford, and I realized that this other mating piece pulls out, and for some reason it was loose, and that's part of the reason that it's not functioning quite right. So just be aware. I mean, this piece could be sticking out, and the rest of this hidden like this. So don't be fooled like I was. They should all look, with the spline configuration that you normally see. So just be aware. Okay, so here's the motor back in, the plug connector's back in. I only have the one retention bolt. And the alignment guides, which I had to clean out with a razor knife on the new part, just because it had some flashing left over. But it doesn't have the little locking tab on there. So another sign that someone was in here prior to me and never put it back. So this job is, on this side, is about done. I just have to reconnect the electrical connector and put the three gas pedal bolts back in, and this piece of it will be complete. Okay, so here is this area I'll put back together. The wire connector there that was removed, the 3 bolts for the gas pedal, and then of course we got the wire connector here, and then the single bolt in my situation, but I believe originally there was another bolt on the back side, but that's all the way it came apart, the way it came back together. Now, so while I'm down here, I already hooked the motor back up here, but this rod here is one of the things that it actuates. This one right here, it moves up and down, and when it moves up and down, get a little more light in here maybe. There. We have this lower vent, which I got access to by pulling the console and drifting it back, all that procedure. But I was able just to reach in with my hand when I manually actuate it, and it went up and down freely, and I didn't have any cause to believe that there was any further issue with that vent control. So I'm calling that one good, and I'll go about having that, assembly and console, going back together. So, but that's just how I checked, by accessing this rod here up and down, which I also discovered while I'm talking about it here is if I got enough light in here, is that when that goes up and down, there's another arm. If I can get on the back, there we go. Another arm to this on the back side, and it turns this little black arm back here. Well, I don't know if you can see that or not, but that's what controls the upper door. Okay, so these are some of the items I pulled out to gain access to get this vent assembly to move up. I shoved it up by prying my screwdriver right in here and wiggling with my hands. Get a little more light in there, I don't know. But there were 4 bolts just to this upper piece, 2 and 2. I think this is the Bluetooth element, but it only had the 1 bolt, and you can't really get to the bottom to see this, but it just gloves into a slot and then the bolt goes in. So those 2 pieces came out, and if I can even get my head to see what I'm shooting at. Sorry, the video cut out, but yeah, I was just trying to show down here. There are, there they are right there. There are a screw there on this side for this vent, and another one buried down here, which I can't see, but same thing. There's a little plastic tab there, and so these just become a little more flexible. Not much, but it just, that's all the things I did in there to give me the ability to shove that up with my screwdriver sticking in there, and confirming that vent did freely move. So I didn't see any foam hanging down there in the bottom, so I'm assuming no problem. So now I got to put all those duct screws back in and this upper stuff back in, and the reason being is I need to get this screw here in, which holds a plastic tab to that vent. And if you look underneath, it's better viewed from the bottom, but there's another tab that goes to the back side of this frame in here on the left. So there's 2 tabs on that, and I got to put this one back in first, and then after that I can go for the other door motor, which would sit here, which didn't give me access to that bolt. So it was kind of had to take that motor out anyway, just so that I could visually inspect that door motion without cutting the front of this panel, which I think was addressed in some hack videos, which I was almost at that point to do that. If I were to do it, I think I'd come in here with a hole saw, a 3 or 4 inch hole saw, and cut a lobe out of both so I could just peel them back. And that might be an idea for the next person, but obviously I didn't have to go to that extent that I'm aware of. So again, I'm going to continue with putting this upper assembly, all the little bolts and pieces back together. So there we go. Okay, this is a difficult quick shot, just looking almost straight up above the gas pedal. I was working on this nut below this connector to remove that tab or free that tab earlier. So just showing you where it is. Okay, I'm putting in the screw for the second tab on that duct. You can see it protruding out back there, right about there. So again, just putting things back together. Okay, just one more shot looking down into the dash where the front speaker is. That's just one of the bolts on the right hand side that holds the ducting down, and there's just no camera shot. You gotta, you know, move the parts around, but there is one down under there for the driver's side or left-hand side. So okay, now I've slid the, what I believe to be is the Bluetooth control unit or whatever. I've slid it into its slot. I'm gonna put in the retention screw. I've reconnected the mini USB connector and you know, snap back in the wire retention there. So that's that step. Okay, this is almost blind video, but there's the 4 screws, one here, one here, and the same would be for the other side to get this upper piece that covers your Bluetooth. And then the only thing left up here now is the speaker wire and the 2 bolts to hold your upper tray in place, and then your rubber mat will go on top of that. So that is, the upper access is about put back together. So okay, just a quick one. The 2 screws after the wire connector underneath and the top tray back in, and done. Okay, I got the upper door motor back in there. I am connecting the wire harness first because the splines below don't match the current position in the doors. So I'm going to use a trick I did the last time. I'm going to try to work my way to where I can power up the system and then actuate the HVAC controls, and that'll put power to this unit, and the splines will move and it should just drop in, and then I can go about wrestling the 2 bolts again. The front one's easy. The back one is the reach one arm in here and one through the glove box. And that one, my wife helped me because she had smaller hands. So it wasn't an easy task, but it seemed to be doable with the right, 16th turn wrench. It took a little while, but it came out. And so there is hope for that access. So I've just loosely set in the CD player, and I'm going to set in the monitor up here and plug in the connector so I can have some power, and then we'll hopefully get that to drop right in, and then I can continue. Okay, the trick to power the truck with the wire connector in there, it did rotate and eventually drop in. I had a little trouble because I didn't know what control worked it, but I had to plug the touch screen back in with the 2 connectors there, and I had to catch the one connector down here that controls the environmental controls on the panel. And the trick was, it was the auto selection. That's what controls that motor. Not sure really what its purpose is yet, but with that, we are in. We just now got to drop in the 2 screws. So we'll go in on the front one. That's easy. And then we'll get in on the back one. Not so easy. Yeah, so here we are trying to get the back bolt in. You got the one arm through the glove box and the one through the top, and certainly a smaller set of hands. And thank you goes out to my sweet wife, who's helped take it out and now is helping put it back in. Okay, now we put in the 4 bolts for the CD, and then the 4 bolts for the touchscreen. So now we just have the 2 connectors to the console panel there, and then the 4 connectors down below. There's the ones that go to the sink unit, and then the cigarette lighter, and the environmental controls. Okay, console's back in. We have the 2 bolts above. We have the 1 bolt which is in where the in-sync attachment is. So this will clip back in. And then I press back in the side panels. And we need to put the 2 screws in here at the bottom of the side panels. I'll have to pull the console back again, but that's where they go. They go right here in this bottom piece on each side, and that'll finish the dash. And then I have one more to go under here to get that duct secured in there. That's just laying in there now, but there is one that screws into the frame. Other than that, it's just moving the console back forward, matching up those holes, matching up the rear holes in the seat back there, and the front 2 there, and then snap in the cover piece, and then we are done. So thanks a lot. Hope this helps, but I'm done. And finally, it's all back together. Happy for that. But yeah, so you can see all the panels and attached screws and so forth for the sub panelings. They're all back in place. But yep, we're good. Thank you very much.